Good afternoon. I'm Alex answering. Today's date is December 20th, 2024. First thing that I'm going to say is whether it's shadow banning or people not being interested in what I'm saying, there should be more views when I've been doing this for 20 years, when I do a newscast and I bring together a lot of different info that is ready for primetime TV. Looking at 44 views with only a few likes for a news video is frustrating. And then I can see other videos where I go on a rant. I'm being highly intellectual in the rant, but it seems at times that news videos and certain investigations get ignored in this shorts world, this fast food nation. So I just want to express that. Then I want to get back into doing an exclusive show where I cover a lot of stuff, but I want it to get seen. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to say is that for a long time, in the beginning, it was normal for people to talk about white supremacy and Nazism and people being basically overtly racist to Arabic people, Afghan people in the beginning. And then the left was co-opted with Obama and the right was co-opted with Donald Trump. And then the narrative became there is no white supremacy. The only reality is that there's an anti-white agenda. And then all this other stuff has been ignored, that there really is an increase in hatred growing, and that the woke movement, and I was right about that prediction too, has created more real neo-Nazis in America. There is this breeding ground going on the internet that I have personally witnessed and seen it happen to people in my audience and people that I've been associated with over the years in the conspiracy theory movement. People like Lee Rogers of the Daily Stormer, people like that, they're all over the place. And so this is kind of emotional, and it's difficult for me because on my particular channel, correct me if I'm wrong, most of you are white, right? And so when you hear of stories like Brown Roundup, it's like, the left did it. And it's like, it doesn't really hit you here or in the nervous system. You're not really thinking about your mother. You're not really thinking about your kids in the future. You're thinking, more fake news. And that's what's really disturbing about a lot of folks online, okay? And it's why ultimately I can't have friends in this world as a brown person if I'm vocal about my enslavement, if I'm vocal about the algorithm, and the algorithm does oppress me specifically as an individual, all right? So there's a lot of news that I want to talk to you about, but if hardly any of you want to come and watch the video and I only have 40 views, why should I spend hours basically putting together the newscast? And there's sometimes a lot of hours involved. All right, so 3 minutes in, I just want to bring this to your attention because I've had concerns about roundups. Others in the past in the conspiracy theory movement talked about FEMA camps or concentration camps. And what happened with the co-opting of the conspiracy theory movement is the silencing of concerns about drones overseas, militarized drones, things of that nature, and a whole plethora of things. So this is a letter that's going around, and it's taking place right as many Black Americans got text messages telling them that slavery is coming back. And then I was of the understanding that that could be maybe a psyops on the part of the shadow government, and see how the cell phones are the mechanism basically for a lot of people to be contacted, to be tapped. And then in the following week, many Hispanics have also received these texts. I'm sure there's going to be calls for Muslims to be put into camps later after new false flags or fake news suggesting that there are false flags. Maybe there'll be no terrorism at all, and there'll just be deep fake videos convincing everyone that there is terrorism. But I am convinced that Earth is turning into hell, and that the vast majority of people involved in the conspiracy theory movement, mainstream, are demonic because they have no empathy for others. They believe the official story about terrorism. They're very different and hypocritical and opposite of what maybe humans were when I got involved in this media stuff. When I met Alex Jones, he was very different in 2005. So now let's go to the clip. And then there's other things that you need to know about Lincoln City. Now I have family in Lincoln City. Okay. And they haven't talked to me as white supremacists for years. This time we'll leave my mother out of it. It is the holidays. But she went and visited these scumbags, these Nagels, back in 2022. And then I took a look at the photographs and zoomed up, and just the sickness on their faces, living in their all-white clan, acting like it's an accident that Alex Ansary isn't connected with the Nagels of Oregon. Folks, there's a reason for that. Plus, Lincoln City is a bad fucking place for meth, for Nazism, for white supremacists. Lincoln City, they're pieces of shit. Okay, and there's a lot of bad energy in Oregon. That's why people that have told me to go back to Oregon, they're not really together in the brain, nor are they really from Oregon. Nobody from Oregon is trying to get me to come back to Oregon. Nobody from Oregon is really, as far as I'm concerned, even watches my channel. That's a friend. Okay, that would help me if I needed help, if I needed a place to go. There's no one that I know in Oregon now, and I'm from Oregon. So it's not an accident that Oregonians don't like me. Now, there are people in Oregon that themselves, they view themselves as so progressive, Oregonian folks. A place for minority people to come from all over the world and be safe. And if you have money, or if you're one of the lucky ones to be put on permanent housing or welfare, not if you're a person like me who's a self-made person, okay, who thinks for themselves, who is not a member of official religion. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not an immigrant. Okay. And so the real Portland, the real Oregon is a place of hate. All right. So that's where we will begin. We may have our first authentic viewer. No, not yet. What happens is people come and go and they dislike and they run away. Okay. Here we are in 2024. My life and my relationship with my audience might as well be, right, a digitally made simulation that is not actually real, but we think that it's real. Because if there's a real human out there, real humans out there, that I've been doing this for 20 years, and you're on the internet and you're on the cell phone, the data suggests that most of you are on your cell phone, there really should be no reason why you're not notified when I go live and I talk about these major issues, because white America down the line, innocent people, will be affected by these accusations of racism when all Americans are blamed by foreign governments. I've talked about this long-term plan. It's so sophisticated what the evil one is doing to us. And so they're increasing on a certain level hate, right? And on another level, they're creating propaganda to tell people on the right wing that there is no racism, that the only people that talk about racism are left-wingers like Biden or Obama or something. Absolute crackhead craziness. Roll clip.
Fox tonight, a concerning letter called the Brown Roundup Part 1 has been making its way up and down small towns across Oregon's coastline, asking residents to compile information on those that they believe are in the state illegally.
The literature even making it to the mailbox of the Lincoln County Sheriff, Curtis Landers, who spoke with our
listen,
Fox.
I want to be very clear about this. Problem, reaction, solution is something that people need to understand. And I believe that they are using this crisis to create a broader event. There's a movie called Schindler's List. You might want to become aware of it. Okay, I'm about to watch it again for the second or third time. I own it now. There's a couple of other movies I was watching recently, including Donnie Brasco. In many ways, I like to get off the internet and watch movies via DVD or VHS because the internet is just so toxic right now. There are other events in Lincoln City that have taken place that I think that we should probably discuss. There was a black family in Lincoln City that was harassed by some Russians. And what happened there was pretty extreme. So I'm going to chalk this up that there is some sort of a demonic, archonic energy in and around the Lincoln City. What else is going on there that I need to know about? Feel free to let me know or email me if you happen to find this video from Lincoln City. I also know that I have a cousin who fell into drugs a couple of years ago in Lincoln City. So I've never visited that area, but I've always had a very bad feeling about some of those coastal towns. Okay. Now, having said that, yes, there may be some psyops that are not legitimate that are coming, but there really are people becoming demonically possessed. And if you wanted to watch and follow a longer newscast later, I'll show you a bunch of news that's emerged out of the last 24 hours that'll just really have your head spinning. Okay, so don't get focused on being sensitive to the reality of racism, whether it be black on white, racism. Many blacks are sensitive to that. Okay. And then many whites are sensitive to the history of the United States and what they've done to Iraq and Afghanistan. In fact, I know of nobody in the conspiracy movement that has any empathy personally for what they've done. Maybe a few people here and there in my audience, very, very few. There's like a shame associated with it, which is sad, which is real sad. There's a shame associated with being spiritual and repenting. But anyway,
Fox 12's Dylan Scott.
You can learn a lot from me about keeping your ass safe if you're a new viewer. Basically, if you're wondering what this is all about, I teach people about morality. Okay. I believe that I fell from sky, basically from the sky, not literally, but spiritually into my body. And then I'm a spiritual teacher. And that basically I'm a messenger. And I'm telling you, the planet Earth, God's pissed at you. You've killed too many people collectively. You've allowed too many bad people to be in power. And collectively, you, the people, have suppressed me in my growth, from AI to individuals that have watched me for years and never once actually helped. This soul, as far as I'm concerned, being watched by God. My whole experience here and all the books that I'm going to write about my observations here on Earth. I was right about a shitload of things. I'm a man before his time. And some people in the audience, they get that. And they've been around for years. I'm a man before his time. There really is going to be a dark, dark push towards both anti-white, anti-Muslim. Do you understand, little boy, little girl? Anti-black, anti-Hispanic. And no one's really going to even know where it's coming from. It's like this AI demon in the box and the machine is taking over. And even Marjorie Taylor Greene and others who I'm not a fan of, they'll talk about the government rallying and creating Nazi groups. And so if you actually take the deep, deep truth that might offend you out of it, you might find parallels between me and what she is saying and others are saying. Okay. So there really is a shadow government. And they really do nasty things like this. And they really are planning for some sort of like apocalyptic situation where people really could be rounded up based on their name, based on their race. Only a person extremely damaged by the internet, by Alex Jones, by Trump, would not think that that's what's coming. Only someone extremely damaged by this society would think that we're winning or something, that there's going to be some change of the tide, that there's going to be some prosperity. Would you want them demonizing you because you're white and an American if China and Russia were occupying the United States? Now think this through, and maybe not yourself specifically, but listen to what I'm saying in case you're thrown against the wall as a man or a woman and you don't have the intellect to fight for someone's honor or your own. You need to understand that this hate that's being engineered is now a fire, okay? And so AI has the ability, or a human has the ability to use AI to masquerade as many people doing certain things, okay? So there's no real way to validate who sent the text to the Black Americans saying they're going to be rounded up, and there's no way to prove or know who's behind this. What we do know, what I believe I know, is that most humans are gullible, and they'll believe, for example, that all Trump supporters believe like that or something, sent the text message. And I don't believe that at all. I believe that it's some sort of an agenda to get everybody fighting, okay? So there's something in my show for people on the left or right. But honestly, the left and the right, for those that don't know, are always going to be offended by me. And I got to say this. People that unsubscribe from me are weak mentally. While I want people to unsubscribe that are demonic, it's weak mentally for people to run from me when I'm trying to heal them, educate them, teach them. I'm not abusive. I'm actually an intellectual who is able to grab a lot of news from a lot of different sources and string things together in a way that few people do. Sometimes I sound overconfident. Well, that's me basically having to push back against a world that says that I'm nothing, that has rated my monetary value at 0, and that's bullshit. When I sit there in this world and I try to tell people about my content, listen, they keep unsubscribing my audience so I can't grow. Get it? That is a conspiracy. So don't say that I hallucinated for years since 9/11, that being short and brown, that I hallucinated hardship. There really is something archonic with an AI that doesn't like my face. Get it and figure it out. And don't be a part of it. Don't support AI being like that. Learn about these AI models that have been spouting out Nazi-esque crap for years and stop being defensive. Start being accusatory. Start accusing this system of trying to create racism to make you as a white person look bad. That's my recommendation for you
tonight.
Don't deny what's going on. Okay. I don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but even she and others, when it fits them, will admit that the government will do certain things to rally the troops. And I'm telling you, there's truth in that statement. What she's not telling you is why they're doing that. That's what she's not telling you. And what she's not telling you is that shadow government that she's talking about exists in both parties and doesn't go away just because someone's elected. And you know that.
Local Lincoln County law enforcement says,
and even according to Donald Trump's worldview, there would be an ongoing deep state conspiracy operating within the U.S. government, whether he's elected or not. So a lot of Trump supporters will already be on that wavelength. They'll just be seeing him as innocent and being oppressed by the deep state and being able to do nothing about it. That's not different, folks, than what Obama supporters said. Okay? They both use the lingo, change we can believe in. With Trump, it's other versions of the word change, but they both monopolize the word change. So you can learn a lot from me. Some are going to be offended and they're going to have to unsub almost as if the demons are ordering them to unsub. And that's honestly how I view the picture. When people can't. Okay, so what I'm telling you is all this is mounting to some horrible situation down the line once the grid goes out.
Circulation of this letter is not illegal.
If they do create or act like they're going to move us into an ethnostate direction, it's to destroy the American image for this global war with China, to make us look like the Nazis of the world, as China and Russia act like the angels of the world. And I told you they're not. They're not in my eyes. Okay? And they've done horrible things. And they have allegedly put bounties on U.S. troops when they were serving in Afghanistan, allegedly offering to pay the Taliban money if they shot U.S. troops.
Potentially acting on it could be. And they also want to make sure that this isn't part of larger, more nefarious activity.
And it's just causing a lot of harm in the community.
This is happening very quickly. And I've been telling you quite regularly, I'm sorry I keep interrupting this, that the elite stage events during SOAR Maximum, and that this is really an alien program to harvest emotional pain and suffering. And this is a level of observation that most people are not at. And you would think that Ike and Jones and others, if they were clear and of a higher frequency, that they would get this, including Laura Eisenhower. Instead, what you have is just a lot of borderline violent psychopathic denial with mainstream conspiracy theorists, that there are people that are products of this environment, basically, products of the matrix, if you will.
And concerns.
It's not just the left, basically, when we talk about the craziness. There really are crazy leftist protesters, and there really are basically their brother, their twin, their cousin on the other side of the political aisle. As I said for years, it's what? It looks more like a family feud than something multicultural when you look at modern protests. It looks like a mostly white family feud with a few black tokens, in some cases leading the way. But that is something for constructive feedback. On the left and the right, they're so angry at each other. But when, I really don't see much of a difference. I see a lot of big, burly leftist guys, and I see a lot of like frail snowflake looking right-wing guys. You know what I mean? Like the actual stereotype even of the leftist and the right-winger is not actually accurate. Again, for those that missed it, I see a lot of big, burly leftist Antifa types and a lot of feminized soy boy, weak, the heavy bag right-wingers. Does that make sense? So even stereotypes that we have accepted into our minds as to this is what a leftist looks like, this is what a right-winger looks like. No, that's actually not true.
You don't want people.
There are people, though, that are posers that believe that if they identify with a certain thing, that they have to wear a certain logo or T-shirt. Maybe right-wingers think that they need to have bigger muscles, whereas left-wingers may think that they need to be super frail and small. But not all are like that.
Shoulders, wondering if somebody writing down my license plate.
Wow, I've retained 2 viewers the whole time. Okay,
in 30,
that's an accomplishment.
7 years in the department, Ada's Lincoln County Sheriff Curtis Landers says a letter circulating across these small Oregon beach towns is causing quite a stir.
This is very strange. Lincoln County is a very safe and excellent place to live. People live here, free of that harassment. And, we take it seriously if there are any situations where we do need to investigate that, any kind of bias crimes or anything like that.
The letter, known as the Brown Roundup Part 1, ended up in Landers' mailbox among countless others.
Did it just get
I have
sent
a second video coming.
to me? How widespread was it?
Essentially asking residents at places like churches, constructions,
Then we'll go and maybe look up the other stories about the Hispanics that got the text.
sites and schools to document any information on potentially undocumented.
So I think it's important that people have empathy. Let's just say that there's the theory that, that it is manufactured. Have empathy for people that don't know what's going on and people that have a mental health crisis, feeling that, and there is something that I believe is ancestral trauma from past slavery. So listen, there is ancestral trauma for Black and brown from ancestral problems. And so the archons, the demons that are running AI, running cell phones, they're activating ancestral trauma. And there are some cops, yes, I'm gonna say something right now. Some cops matter. Blue lives matter. Even if I said yesterday, you know, like I'm not like in that cult mindset, there are decent cops. I want to clarify my statement, but there's bad cops too. So as far as bad cops are concerned, there are many stories. I'm probably going to end this broadcast and come back with a new one. There are cops getting busted talking about really violent racist things about the inmates, about Asian people, about Jewish people, about Black people, or saying, I have no problem with Black people, but every other group that's screwed up, which actually confirms what I told you, that some people are so radicalized that they'll give Black people a pass and attack everybody else. And that's not really spoken of in white and Black communities as much as it should be. Nobody should be hated, period. But it's super psychopathic when whites and Blacks want to high-five each other. I'm not saying you're a part of it, but you need to see it in the world and at the gym. When Blacks and whites high-five each other, then they point their finger at the rest of the short brownies around them. That's bullshit, and that's Darwinism, and I'm calling it out.
Men and residents.
I'm calling out the Darwinism.
Future deportation effort.
Darwinism is Satanism and has no place at my table.
Which is illegal and protected by the state sanctuary laws.
And by Oregon law and by our policy, we don't enforce immigration.
Overcome the Darwinistic only the tall shall survive bullshit within you, little girl, little boy, and become a spiritual being. You can do it. Remember, what have I said for years? Well, actually for weeks now, but it's deep. It's easier for a short man to be attracted to a woman with a few extra pounds than for any woman to be attracted in general to a short, tan male who has no status or money, who covers the truth.
Law, and right. I don't believe.
Don't hate me because I'm brilliant and psychic.
Offices aren't asking for this either.
Landers says while the First Amendment protects this speech,
hello, third viewers. We have a second video coming, and then we're going to end this, retag it, and cover a lot more news later.
Concern about it being a small piece of something bigger. And
the coast of Oregon, when I visited Manzanita, there aren't very many times in which I feel stalked by a truck and have that hair going up. But in 2010, when I visited Manzanita, I got really bad vibes about being seen there. And so for those of you that never served in Afghanistan and Iraq, you don't necessarily look at me and go, Arab. But a lot of people that are psychopaths that went over there, they do. And after 20 years, it's amazing how many people, I'll try to stay away from you statements, how many people in my audience in this world don't get that. But I shouldn't be surprised. IQ in general is collapsing faster than Twin Towers on 9/11.
The situation.
Is it an inside job?
We have
a magnetic field. You'd be
by the FBI on it. Right now, what I'm hearing is it's isolated to Lincoln County, but we don't know if it's going to spread from there. But
and they cover two more stories after this to connect it with in one suit.
That's the reason why, even though it's not
this will be a
criminal,
33-minute video.
That on the radar in case it does widespread, because again, we don't want anything to stir up from it.
And local law enforcement is asking if anyone sees someone act.
Locally here, a swastika was lit on fire during the COVID lockdown period. Video number 2 begins now.
Racist letter sent to leaders in Lincoln County.
There was a neo-Nazi rally or a big arrest in San Diego recently. So again, for those that are slow, that need me to spell it out for you, here it comes. So it goes like this. If people are looking around going, where's the terrorist from Iran? Where's this? Where's that? When they see someone who matches a certain racial type, they may automatically think that way. I've noticed an uptick, being somewhat psychic, and people having certain vibrations coming out of them at the gym, and people are very segregated with the exception of the white and Black love fest. With the exception of that and a few only white, militant, military industrial complex veteran Latinos who talk to the hot, taller white chick at the gym. Other than that exception, there's no mingling at the gym. These people are products of the prison planet. And so you also have a history of names on the terror watch list when innocent people were put on it. And so there is a history of innocent people being profiled, and there is the reality of facial recognition, not getting the proper identities. And then you have the issue of the Portland lawyer who was accused of being a Muslim terrorist. He was a white lawyer out of Portland in 2003. He was detained under the Patriot Act. It wasn't even his fingerprint. So this government has a history You get that, right? Of getting it wrong. Who's to say that if there wasn't someone in power, that they wouldn't then take the grid, the Roundup plan, agenda, the data, and then do something nefarious to political dissidents? This sort of come out of the mouth of leaders. Do I really have to say his name? Talking about getting back at people that criticized. Now, a lot of people believe that he will shut down the alternative media. Okay. The alternative media for years, Gary Franchi's Camp FEMA, warned about concentration camps and talked about how they put the Japanese in camps. Sometimes I think my old friend's superpowers or strength, almost superhuman strength and knockout power, maybe, came about from the fact that his parents during World War II were in a Japanese camp around the Expo Center in Portland, Oregon. So by the time he came out of the womb after 1955, maybe something that his parents experienced resulted in him being stronger, being a fighter.
Well, now to a follow-up on a story.
On that note, what will then be of the coming generation? And then I was born 2 months after the invasion of Afghanistan by Russian forces on Christmas, 1979. During what? Solar maximum.
We brought you last night a racist letter sent to leaders in Lincoln County along the Oregon coast.
Also, so from an organic perspective, someone who could be possessed by the paranormal demonic influence to then, because this is all about demonic influence, racism. Demonic influence is the core. And so with the solar flares, just like Hitler, looking at the Aurora Borealis before he invaded Poland, individuals who don't know anything about the solar flares or even seen the Aurora Borealis, they're affected by the bad energies if they're not trying to be spiritual. Whereas I'm looking at how I respond to the solar flares with intention to be spiritual, to be powerful, to use my high T levels for the highest good by creating content, not having a bunch of babies and getting into fights, but creating content. I need more T levels to be creating content and pushing back against evil. High T levels are needed.
Encouraging people to track and report people of color in their community.
I don't think just high T levels, but it helps. Low T levels can be problematic if you're a true speaker and you're online a lot.
The Brown Roundup Part 1.
So from an intuitive perspective, I've had dreams about prison buses, coming for people, all right?
For example, parking.
I've had dreams about, I don't want to be specific, fleeing ships, Chinese ships.
Parking lot and taking down license plates.
Out in the ocean, shit like that. Before COVID started, before the lockdown event happened.
And car
so like lockdown type of isolated type of, and then I started reading articles about like lockdown ships or whatnot with all the cruise ships. The idea of people being on lockdown on a ship, that's quite terrifying. So keep that in mind. And I've had dreams, apocalyptic dreams 20, 30 years ago about, well, I'm never going to describe it, but we'll describe it loosely. People basically in water in an apocalyptic situation with the controllers controlling who gets on the boat. It's very much a Titanic type situation in the dream. And that's all I'm going to say. So there's something coming that is absolute evil. Who knows why God sent you and I to incarnate into this planet, but you need to start asking those questions. And on a regular basis in the other videos, I ask those questions. And you don't have enough people in this world asking those questions. They're just playing victim and looking for someone to blame. It's one thing if we're looking for some places to go, that's not unconscious. You can't trust that president, but we got to realize that we're in this matrix for a reason.
Folks that are brown. Schools, as you wait in line to pick up the kiddos or the grandkiddos, if you see brown folks, record the plate number.
That is the mayor of the small town of Toledo.
There is no one brown at the local church that's all white, and it's mostly a brown community. That's fine if people want to be that way, but nobody can say that racism doesn't exist when that's happening in churches in America in 2024. Nobody can say, no, we're not racist. No, racism doesn't exist. By the way, we really prefer this be a whites only. That's crazy for people to even think like that, okay? That's crazy for people to even. Now, if they have evidence that everybody brown is a disturbance and that would be different, then it's a public safety hazard. If they can prove it, that's not true. That's not true in a lot of cases, that nobody can be trusted. That no white, black, Asian person can be trusted. A lot of the hardcore biases that people are taking on is part of a demonic program. But you and I are authorized to criticize the programming of the white man, the white woman, the Afghan, the Arab, the people that are in their boxes of racial superiority. You can criticize the programming, and you should. As a woman, you should criticize the programming of the woman and the man. As a man, you should criticize the programming of the man and the woman. You should set yourself free from the program. See, this world, as far as I'm concerned, since the day we were born, has taught us the wrong way. And the main lie of all is that we are our race. From the moment we're born, we're stamped, and it's still encouraging us. YouTube also is encouraging me to answer demographic info about my race. Screw YouTube. I've already played that game with them before. They're not honest, and they don't really like, in my opinion, black and brown people. YouTube, okay? They don't. But they will play up black. Okay? Okay, but other groups, no. They will play up Hindu. Oh, yeah. Other groups, big time suppression. And I think that there's also a lot of suppression of Asian voices also on YouTube, okay? And so what I'm saying to you is that AI is the ultimate system of discrimination, and it needs to be discussed as children are to inherit this AI system. We were already programmed to get close to our computers during the lockdown. And a lot of supposed woke people that say they're against white supremacy, they have way too much trust of this grid and these websites. TikTok, TikTok tried to play up the woke thing. I'm not on TikTok, but a lot of people think that they're fighting for rights and whatnot are all over TikTok. That's just China and ByteDance using our stupidity and greediness against us.
Oh, right.
Greediness, great, because it is greedy if people go, I'm going to go to TikTok because I want to have 10,000 views on a makeup video. I don't want to say the B word. I want to be polite and be nice. It's like, biatch, why you need to put on so much makeup? What are you trying to hide?
Todd Cross.
I say take off the mask.
Got in touch with our team after getting
take off
that
the veil.
letter.
Stop this stuff.
Other members of the Toledo
Stop
City
going
Council,
like there
leaders
is no
in other nearby cities got the same letter. Mayor Cross.
KKK, that what they did in Afghanistan and Iraq wasn't racist when millions were killed and they don't count the bodies. Don't be that guy.
Says he was sickened by that letter, and during a council meeting last night said he wants city leaders to draft a response.
I want one day to give one of you a graduation letter to say you get a C. Now let's work on you getting a B. You are progressing. You are getting it. You're answering the quiz questions. You're answering the polls. We are getting quantitative data that you are growing from these broadcasts. That's what I want to see. I don't get that data. It's assumed some of you are growing and learning. Some have gone the other way. There's many, many people that watched me back in the day that went down the rabbit hole of QAnon. Can you believe that shit? QAnon. Even women that I literally, and Patricia, if you're out there, the pendulum says you're not. I checked out your latest pic. When you do look hot, but I will still have nothing to do with you. But I sent a private email to you that your looks are gone. You still have your looks. But a lot of you Oregon women out there that naturally are pretty from the Oregon energy, God gives unto us many gifts of beauty, of strength, of money. I just feel like a lot of people have squandered it, not only as individuals, but this whole society since 1940, since 1950, has squandered and abused its own freedom to the point where it looks like as a nation, we're going to lose our freedom.
Condemning the racism.
I have always believed that America was a place for every tribe, every tongue, and every nation to come together. And
Toledo, Bruce, my uncle, spent a lot of time in Toledo. And again, when I grew up, the things out of his mouth, he was the most racist of the bunch. Inward this about Hispanics. In my understanding, I am traumatized that I have a racist white family that doesn't write me letters or talk to me. I will tell my audience to my audience face and look you in the eyes. The real reason the Nagels don't talk to me is because the real nature of who and what they are. And they are Lincoln City peoples. They are Oregon peoples. A lot of you that look at this Whitelandia land of Oregon, you don't understand those Oregonians very, very well. Now, I want to believe that this man might be very genuine in what he's saying, but it's much easier for people to say that people are welcome here, this, that, and the other, rather than to actually be that way. Or let alone to welcome back to Oregon a minority who hasn't been there in 10 years because he has no Oregon roots. See, Oregon is not on my good side. Oregon is a corrupt place. That's why you're seeing this stuff come out about the rapists in the school. You want me to cover what's happening in St. Helens next? 10 people are on an investigation from the cops for allowing males, maybe females too, to have sex with kids. There is something really foul about Oregon. And when you have nations and groups and regions like Super Realities talks to us about that fall into such decay, only trouble follows. drug addiction. I always wondered myself, like, how did my uncle even get involved in the late 70s, early 80s into pro dope when he was spoiled rotten and given so much by his dad and mom? I'm still working on that. But when you have basically, I already thought about it years ago as it's somewhat intuitive. When you have people that are given so much where you don't actually have to work for it, and it was all done by their dad, and they're being mind controlled by the rock and roll, and the drugs being brought in by the government, and they're basically like a petri dish, like a social experiment. And that's what I see our society in America and the world as, some sort of a petri dish experiment for the fallen angels of the archons.
An individual and go for the greatest good you can get.
Giant worship is the downfall of humanity. Remember that and get the t-shirt now. That doesn't mean that you're bad if you happen to be a giant. Understand what I'm saying? Giant worship. If you happen to be a giant male or female and your partner is a giant and you have a deep relationship with them, you get a pass. You're not a piece of garbage. It's okay for you to have a giant partner. It's the giant worship that's the issue. Remember, I'm a nice guy. I'm an educator. I'm just not going to put up with anybody blowing spitwads at me. That's why comments are closed. Because people treat me like a punching bag. Newsflash.
For everybody.
I'm a punching bag. But I like to
This letter.
I like to teach you how to hit the heavy bag, but I'm not a punching bag.
Really, I can't use the words I want to use because I'm not supposed to use Army language.
A city councilor, Tracy Mix, agreed that sending a strong message is the next step forward.
This is not the type of town where we sit there and watch our neighbors and we worry a bit because somebody moved in next door that has a different color skin. We want them to invite us to dinner or share their culture with us. And we are inviting and open. We're the type of people that accept people for who and what they are. That is what Toledo is. Otherwise, we wouldn't have so many people here ready to stand up to their neighbors. On the topic of Toledo.
And Councillor Stu Strom remembered an infamous incident nearly 100 years ago in Toledo.
I think when Bruce was working obsessively in Toledo in the mid-late 90s when he got back into dope. And that contributed to the failure of his second marriage. And so, yeah, this Toledo place has bad energy. People that are moving to Oregon that don't know about the Oregon energy don't know what they're signing up for. People tell me to go back to Oregon, know nothing.
Toledo
and they're not from Oregon. Nobody from Oregon is like, come on back to Oregon. No. They know the truth.
Of 1925, when a mob of hundreds of people.
You want to invite me to Oregon? You know the email, but that's the way to do it. Send me a video. Describe to me the happy utopia you're living in out in rural Oregon. Make the case, because I already tried to reach out to people in Ashland, Oregon, and from what I gather, there's a lot of cult activity in Ashland, Oregon. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of resentment from the people that have lived there towards the new people that are there for the not so much free love. We're so far from that. But for their modern versions of the hippie cults.
People forced dozens of Japanese, Korean, and Filipino people out of town.
They rounded up a bunch of people and put them on trains.
So this is residual racism from the past. It's like something's coming with the moon cycle or the planetary alignments. And when planetary alignments get in, astrologers, they like to focus on the woo-woo. Your new lover is coming. But there are some astrologists that pick up on planetary influences over people that hate. And then the people that deal with the information regarding hate and racism, they usually aren't into spirituality and astrology. And conspiracy theory people, they're brainwashed into thinking anybody talk about racism is a snowflake leftist who probably likes Biden. So they really hit the conspiracy people in the head collectively with a hammer. If you're new to me talking about this and you don't know what's going on, a natural conspiracy thinker thinks for himself or herself. They don't go to a talk show who has millions of viewers and listen to all their downloads and then take in their worldview like Alex Jones and Donald Trump, conspiracy theorist in chief. To be a real authentic contrarian or man of God or woman of God is to question the nature of evil everywhere. That's who I am. That's what I am. I get messages from God in my dreams, in my life subconsciously, not voices. And I am instructed by God to sacrifice the pleasures of the flesh to expose these evils. Unfortunately, there's only a few dozen of you here to witness this. Maybe in the future, more of you will hear me narrate the fall of our world. Because in the end, I will be right. In the end, thank you for the likes. I will be right about a lot of things. And in the end, I hope to be right that we are here as spiritual beings, hoping to get back to heaven, to earn the right to come back, or to go to a more evolved planet, to reincarnate and to be able to do better things. I have no problem reincarnating as long as I'm like, a superhero or something. Like Superman, where he's like going round and around the planet. Like, give me something like that. Special vision. Don't recycle me into this matrix. I will do nearly anything except harm someone to avoid being recycled back in this matrix. I will not harm someone, and harming someone will get you recycled back in this matrix, I think, in the form of the people that you hate. Yeah. Listen. There's a lot of people in pretty bodies right now that I think have past lives as bad boys in past wars. There are people here that are so dumb, so anti-freedom, it's like they're new to the human experience. They just got here from hell. And I watched another video. Be aware of the pretty faces out there that will deceive us in both male and female form. There's a video I saw on that recently where a spiritual guy, white guy, psychic guy, was talking about this. He wasn't so much saying men or women, but just in general, that a lot of evil spirits are in really pretty bodies. So if you find yourself not so attractive, like I find myself not so tall, not so attractive, maybe thank God.
My spouse is,
handsome, but a few physical imperfections where people just can't love you because you're just not tall enough to ride the ride. Thank God for saving your ass from the filth that's out there that will cause your, to fall off.
Grandfather.
Expression of speech.
It took him years to live that down.
You have permission to tell the local waitress and grocery store people about my channel. In fact, I command you to make business.
Let's see that happen again here. Ever. This is a great community.
As your attorney, I advise you to write down this YouTube channel and slip it to a hot chick tonight. Tonight, when you go get your milk and pizza and ice cream.
I think we welcome.
And you tell her I will save her white, black, Hispanic, Muslim ass from danger if she follows my advice.
Most everybody.
However,
here.
Is it really accurate to call us advice for angels? You're not really an angel, are you? Nor am I yet, or at least at present, right? So we may just change the name of the channel back to Outside the Box TV with Alex answering.
That wants to have a very good life.
Yeah. But I'm ready to have 1,000 viewers per 1 hour show. Not 44 viewers with 6 likes, but 77 likes with 1,000 views.
Get to some of your feedback on our story out of Toledo last night. The vast majority.
No, come on. 44 views at the age of 44? No, man. No. I had thousands of views at the age of 24. I'm not supposed to go down. I'm supposed to go up.
Majority of comments we received were similar to what we heard from a viewer named Nancy.
Nancy!
I just don't see Oregon like that. I certainly hope. I've lived here all my life.
Okay, so white folks that live in Oregon that have lived there their whole life, they don't know what it's like to be targeted and brown. And a lot of them, they live in this weird fantasy, like bizarre land, even when they're 60 and 70. And even when they're told, like I told an 80-year-old white woman who lives on Hawthorne about my suffering, she was in some sort of mental health crisis thinking that I was going to come visit her birthday party. Jennifer, as much as I would love to see your 80-year-old birthday party on Hawthorne Boulevard, there was a real disconnect when I told you that I really had nowhere to stay and Portland was really too expensive. People that have been living in Portland, Oregon that still have houses there, despite the homelessness, they're really disconnected from poverty, from what I will describe as myself, a shorter, tan, brown minority who's already very, very different and spiritual. Like my spiritual energy alone alienates demonic people. You get this, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, including the economy, being poor, that will alienate a lot of people from wanting to support me or think I am cool or have status. It's the nature of this world being corrupt, folks. Not any sign of me doing something wrong. Get it straight and get your head straight if it did you wrong. Someone insulted me a couple weeks ago saying, oh, you rant about a sexual frustration. No wonder no one listens to you. I appreciate bad boys out there letting me know they're there so I never fall into misogyny and thinking, that it's just the women that are unconscious or something. I really appreciate that. It keeps me centered and it keeps me awake knowing what I'm dealing with in this hell. I've lived here all my life, 70 years. I had no idea. Oregon has a bad history. I mean, my whole childhood, even my grandpa, as nice as he was, I mean, he really hated those Hispanics in Woodburn. I just never understood what they did to them. So there really is like a natural cultural white supremacy to Oregon, to rural Oregon. This is crazy that she would even think that way. I mean, Lincoln City has a bad vibe. I can feel it from here. And so you have people that literally live amongst the gunk here, other places where that's all they've known. And if you or her are not in the body where someone's stalking you, harming you, slandering you online, defaming you, then you don't know what it's like. And that's crazy. As someone that's been slandered and defamed online, the racism is the motivation often, even if the people are claiming that they're just bullying someone because they say the other person has a mental illness or is a criminal, this, then the other. It is all based in racism, even the legal issues to begin with that shouldn't have even happened. Okay, so the world is crazy right now and is in violent denial that it's going downhill and manipulated by demons. Okay.
That letter just made me sick to my stomach.
What made me sick to my stomach was something that I experienced in 2016 when I visited somebody in my RV. And it was a big wake-up call to how people, they have a deep hate within them, they'll hold it and hide it from you until there's an argument, then it erupts, their bias comes out, then they do something corrupt that's basically evil, sinister, and lie. So I really would love to meet many of you, hang out with many of you, drink beers with many of you. If I got to know some females for many, many months, maybe a little bit more. But right now, it seems like the world is ending through people losing their morality, losing their empathy, and the conspiracy movement being taken over by assholes saying racism doesn't exist or only anti-white racism is, to me, full-on Satanism. It's bad. And it's not preparing people in the conspiracy movement for the type of real life hate that is really running amok. So real conspiracy theorists should be anti-cell phone. Real spiritual conspiracy theorists that respect Jesus should be way more suspicious of Satan and AI. Get it? There shouldn't be any type of rhetoric that AI is woke, isn't racist. And there are people acting possessed that for a couple of years since ChatGPT came out, they were lying about the true nature of ChatGPT. They never reported on ChatGPT, giving people instructions on torturing Iranians, but I did. And did my channel 2025 countdown when I talk into AI about what AI is doing? Do you think AI would recommend me? Do you think AI would reward me? No, AI would suppress me. And one day when they unleash the drones, AI will what me unless God intervenes. Don't you turn away from the truth. Turn towards the truth. Turn towards the sun. The truth will set you free, but first it's going to what? Piss you off.
It's just reprehensible. You have to hold the line from the beginning, or there's no end to the ways they will find to justify doing it to another group. So
in the comments, 5 people liked the comment. No one argued with the comment. What's the problem with getting rid of human traffickers? And so associating a brown person with a human trafficker is something that I said in my podcast was happening. That was like Exodus Cry, the anti-violent porn YouTube channel. In their documentary, they only focus on brown people raping and kidnapping the young white girls. They don't focus on the deeper intrinsic nature, in my observation of them, of Mind Geek, not owned by blacks, not owned by Muslims. You understand? But maybe it's ran by aliens if people don't want there to be any accountability. But what I'm saying is, so let's go back to this, and then I need to show you the next video.
I hope people continue to bring this forward when...
You know, I don't like this ruining my day. I don't really have anything to make my day happy. But someone did join my members area for a year. So that's nice. And if you want to communicate to me what type of members area content you would prefer,
it's happening so that we...
Stuff that's not the news that I can cover. But I'm going to cover this. I don't have any money coming in. And if I was to create more videos on current events, maybe at some point $100 a month would come in. But 11 million people are estimated to be on this deportation thing. But even before this was discussed, there was discussions about concentration camps. People can easily be labeled one political faction or another just based on social media activity. And AI oftentimes gets it wrong.
Nancy for that. And Tom wrote in to say, it was refreshing to hear the responses from the Toledo mayor and Lincoln.
All right, so let's just move on. This is giving me a kind of a headache, but okay, police help Black family escape confrontational and highly intoxicated crowd in Lincoln City. Okay, so this was the 4th of July, around the time money, and there was a lot of bad
infuriating energy. Story.
This was one of the more interesting, likable anchors in Portland. I wonder what happened to this guy. They probably got rid of him for having a soul.
Post from the 4th of July weekend. All right,
no,
police arrested
seven
men, these 7 right here, after they got calls about these.
He was a likable reporter, likable white guy reporter, that guy. You can check out, he had a lot of intelligent things to say.
Guys yelling racial slurs, giving Nazi salutes, and throwing.
Those that don't know that I do report on anti-white, the real anti-white stuff that we need to be aware of. I do recognize that. But there are people in our society that have made stuff up out of thin air saying that pushing back against racism is anti-white. That to me is being on demon time. And if you've ever been on demon time, ask Christ for help.
Firecrackers.
It's not anti-white to push back against real white supremacy. That right there. And anybody you know who even thinks like that, run from them. And I welcome you to unsubscribe right now, because this is not the channel for you. If that is a deep-seated value system that you've had for 70 or 80 or 90 or 100 years, I can't help you. And I now know 20 years of just, groveling to my audience and whatnot, about every little detail and pain that I go through does not earn their sympathy. Okay.
What a black.
So this right here is not a hallucination. This right here is not fake news. And look at the number of them, 7. Oftentimes 7 is symbolic, not just of the light side, but the dark side of black magic, of 7 coming together and doing something harmful to someone. This comes up over and over and over again, the dangers of the Gang of 7.
Black family. These men are from Clark County. They were cited and released.
Clark County, which is Vancouver, Washington, which is a dump. It's an energy vibrational wasteland. And it's north of Portland, Oregon. It's different than Portland, Oregon, but the energy is just absolutely garbage and gross.
Hours later, Maggie Vespa spent the day kind of piecing together everything that happened in Lincoln City.
Police up and down Oregon's coast, including those in Lincoln City, were patrolling the beach this 4th of July weekend, mostly looking for illegal fireworks. The chief of police, Jerry Palmer, tells me
those that don't understand how the algorithm works, the algorithm, I've said this for years, but nobody seems to care, seems to make sure that my audience stays white and in the mainstream conspiracy genre. And as far as like other demographics, people basically that would feel more emotionally affected by this news, because I think most of you are not. Some of you might be offended by this news and you might have a feeling for it. But the thing is like, from what I gather and the polls that I've done, the vast majority of people affected by this type of thing are not in my audience. And that after 20 years is problematic and is a sign of interference. And you should not disagree with me on that. You should get that and have sympathy for my plight. You should totally have sympathy for my plight. If there wasn't a super suppressive algorithm, I'd be way more happier. And many people would be emailing me from around the world with letters, giving me basically kudos and talking to me when they shadow ban me, when they remove my likes, when they roll back my views, when they make me small, to women that are obsessed with status, size, not just one type of size, but other types of size like social media size. They may find me and my other channels irrelevant. You understand? Because it may not be something to brag about. This woman came in when I worked at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, and we made eye contact, and I always wondered if she ever knew me, because she was a cute reporter, much more cuter back in the day. Now her age is starting to show. But there is no question why. Nothing wrong with being white. This is not anti-white. This is not anti-white. Hello? This is not anti-white. But there is no question why she went from Portland to becoming a major anchor or reporter for NBC News, the national news. Maggie from Portland, Oregon, tall, white, pretty. Don't say that those attributes won't take you to the top if you will toe the bottom line. But if she was a 9/11 truther, if she was an anti-war activist, would they have given her that NBC nightly news job? The answer is hell no.
Expected anything like what happened Saturday night.
Can you tell me who called 911?
And she is attractive, and I've had even dreams where I was talking to her, just trying to tell a Portland reporter, hey, all this stuff happening in Portland, I talked about it. Solar flares, crime, women getting raped, stuffed in cars, talked about it. High rent, criminals coming from out of state, things falling apart, talked about it. Sex demons, rape, the paranormal aspect of human sexuality in Portland, Oregon, talked about it and will continue to talk about it. Portland, Oregon, she does have that hybrid type of glassy-eyed look, doesn't she? Portland lifts up people that are not really spiritual. And Portland has cranked out a lot of people out of a place called Portland State University that are not well in the head, that are anything but intelligent. Everybody that I know who graduated from Portland State University, whether it's Marshall, the black guy who came to my meetup, who has no empathy, who doesn't believe that Afghan lives matter, whether it be, we'll skip her, or my father, or Angel S. of Clackamas County, or Patricia, right? Everybody that I know who went to this established elite school of Portland State University thinks their shit doesn't stink, and everything about their life was money, 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 and nothing was compassion. And so what people need to know about Portland is they're not really progressive, loving people. They're really a vampire class of humans, right? And if you're a Portlander watching this and you like me, you should send me an email. If you want to bring me to Portland, Oregon and clank beers all day long, do some Molly, smoke some marijuana, make a documentary overnight, let me know, okay? I am completely authorized and I'm in my right to be bent when Portlanders have ignored me and have left me to die in the streets. Meanwhile, they elevate other people. They elevate other people. They elevate other people that don't do shit about shit just because they're pretty and they're tall and they're white or black. And that's the new Nazism. Not all whites or blacks, but those that view, like a La Raza rant or something, everything for the race, for those in the race, and nothing for those outside the race, outside the black and white dynamic. And if you're in my shoes at my gym, you understand the dark direction this nation is going in. As you look at that glassy-eyed stare from women like this, and she looks so on top of it, looks so aware, looks so intelligent, and that's the real nature of things. You think the media is somehow the moral high ground? Is that what you really think? Do you think that the Portland, Oregon media is above white supremacy? Do you think that she and her employers are above? Hey, it's a simple question. It's a yes or a no. Yes, really? You think so? Really? Wow. I would disagree with you and tell you that everything that they do in Portland, Oregon to see if they stand against hate is a lie, is a show. And I've had enough. I've had enough.
I don't know specifically how.
I've had enough, and I've got more news to share with you. Okay, so I want to thank you for watching. Namaste. And just end with a Mani Padra. I'm Alex Hansen, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth and place of peace still lies with